the past year or so, I have been thinking a lot about the intersectionality of unpaid emotional labor, the financial realities that women face in a post COVID workplace, the gender wage gap, and the role of emerging technologies, in particular, cybersecurity. Hi, everyone. My name is Alma Maria Rinasz, and I am a recovering classroom teacher, a technology worker, and a volunteer in cybersecurity. The reason I've spent so much time learning about each of these topics, looking at how they are interconnected, and asking myself, what are the possible solutions to the problems related to each, is because I am interested in or directly impacted by all of them. But what about you? It might be that you are not directly impacted or interested in any of these topics. And if that's the case, I hope this talk is going to illustrate to you why you should care. Gender equity and closing the wage gap is not just a societal issue, but an economic opportunity that involves everyone. And we need everyone to be involved in implementing changes so that women can fully participate in our national and global economies. So let's examine each one of these topics to see how they fit together and what issues have negative impacts, and perhaps maybe we can take a look at some possible solutions. Coined by the sociologist Arlie Hochschild, emotional labor is a concept that explains what happens when we suppress emotions and in order to portray ourselves in a certain way, allowing for others around us to sustain a certain state of mind. In the workplace, this can look like something like someone having to explain to their manager why their hair is not unprofessional, while carefully curating their words so that the other person does not feel bad. In our private lives, emotional labor looks like invisible labor. Writer Melanie Lockhart describes it as managing schedules, making appointments, processing emotions in relationships, or making sure that the kids have birthday cards, and refilling the soap. It is women who most often do this work, and it is the expectation that women help, care, and support. Emotional labor takes time, it takes energy, and it means that women must often negotiate the feelings of others when simply trying to exist in the world. Lockhart asks us to imagine if women could free up some time and energy by not having to engage in emotional labor. And in this post-pandemic world, this is a scenario that I and millions of women would like to see become reality. COVID-19 has been particularly hard on women. An essay published by the Brookings Institution highlights a reality we know all too well. The US economy is hard on women, and the virus excels at taking existing tensions and ratcheting them up. As any working mother can tell you, we already had a lot on our plates. Now we shoulder even more. In my own experience, from March until August of last year, I was unemployed, unsure of the housing situation for myself and my children, homeschooling because of school closings, and looking for a job full time. I did have some support, yet much of the responsibility of schooling and caregiving fell on me. This trend is quite common, as shown in the July 2020 research by Dr. Gemma Zamaro, finding that women carried a heavier load than men in providing childcare after school closed due to COVID-19. So in other words, compared to 14% of men, 44% of women reported being the only one in the household providing care. So what about the gender wage gap? The gender wage gap has already put women at a disadvantage. In a 2016 study, the Economic Policy Institute estimated that women were paid 83 cents for every dollar that men make. And for Black women, it was about 63 cents to the dollar, with that disparity getting even worse for older workers. Nicole Bateman and Martha Ross write that The problems facing women in the labor market have never been hidden, but they have been inconvenient to address because they are so entrenched in the basic operations of our economy and society. The low wages associated with pink collar occupations have long contributed to the feminization of poverty and the chronic shortage of affordable, high quality childcare reflects outdated notions of women's societal roles, how the economy functions, and child development. Bateman and Ross bring up an extremely valid and important point in regards to childcare and low wages in professional roles that have been traditionally held by women. In a pre-pandemic study of Louisiana's early childhood education system, researchers found that 1 in 2 lead teachers in early childhood education quit their jobs every year. And it's not that they were taking other roles in the industry. What they were doing was leaving the field entirely due to low wages and burnout. So if these were issues in our childcare system before the pandemic, during the pandemic, with women being disproportionately impacted by the demands of caregiving, it is no surprise that women are cutting their hours or leaving their jobs altogether. So coming back to Bateman and Ross's article, COVID-19's massive disruption to employment, childcare, and school routines has crippled the economy and pushed millions of women and families to the financial brink. In Bateman and Ross's words, this moment provides an important opening to rethink how policy supports women's roles as financial providers and parents. There seems to be a lot of unspoken assumptions around women and expectations around emotional labor that feel systemically unfair to me. It's like we're being penalized for having children and a career. If this moment, as Bateman and Ross suggests, provide us with an opportunity to rethink policy, what kinds of policies are going to support women instead of hurt us because we have families? Now, low wages is not exclusive to pink collar occupations, and a gender wage gap has been observed across fields and industries. There is also an issue of gender parity and representation in different sectors. In technology, women continue to be underrepresented. A study carried out by the cybersecurity firm as Kenzie PR and Marketing revealed that women hold only 10% of board positions, 16% of management positions within the world's leading cybersecurity companies. There is a major gap in the industry, and companies are missing out on the skill sets that women can bring to cybersecurity. According to a 2020 study by Tessian, a cybersecurity company that uses machine learning technology to stop data breaches, there are over 4 million unfilled positions in cybersecurity. And they conclude that closing the gender gap could have a massive impact on the US economy. That is a massive positive impact on the US economy. They conclude that closing the pay gap in the United States would add an additional $12.7 billion. Let me just say that again. Closing the gender pay gap in the United States could potentially add $12.7 billion. In February of this year, Katie Musaris, the legendary founder of the Microsoft Bug Bounty program, who also was directly involved in creating the Department of Defense's first bug bounty program for hackers, donated $1 million of her own money to establish a new center for pay equity policy at Penn State Law. This was the largest donation in the law school's history. The money will go to fund active litigation, both bringing specific cases against specific companies and pressing appeals to chip away at the precedent set by the 2011 Supreme Court ruling Walmart Stores Inc. versus Dukes. The Dukes case, a gender wage pay gap lawsuit, resulted in a ruling denying that systemic sexism could be the motive behind a pay gap. Mesouris's groundbreaking work in cybersecurity did not shield her from having to deal with the gender wage gap, and she is one of many examples of the lack of pay parity in technology. But technology can also provide us with tools to help detect sexism where pay and bias are concerned. Katika Roy, founder and CEO of Pipeline Equity, argues that the focus should be on removing the bias from performance evaluations through using artificial intelligence and natural language processing software to identify bias in performance evaluations. Pipeline's research found that for every 10% increase in gender equity toward parity, there was a 1 to 2% increase in revenue for companies. So let's come back to you. Why should you care about these issues, particularly if you're not a mother or a woman? There are financial reasons that I have already mentioned, but there are also societal issues as well. However, the bottom line reason why you should care about this issue is because we have seen that the success in life of children can be directly tied to their mother's access to education and opportunities. A healthier society comes from having healthier women who are set up for success. Mothers need accessible workplaces. We need work cultures that do not penalize us for becoming mothers. But we also need a labor market that more fairly compensates women for their work, regardless of their parenting status. We need policies to incentivize wage transparency and to decrease the gender wage gap. This can be as simple as companies across sectors taking the Pay Equity Now pledge that is a part of the Pay Equity Now Foundation, founded by Katie Mesouris, and by using the tools offered by Katika Roy's artificial intelligence software. Vice President Harris wrote earlier this year in the Washington Post that when we lift up women, we lift up families, we lift up communities, and all of society benefits. This is true in the United States, but this is also true around the globe. We already know what we need to do. It is just the matter of those who do not think that this is their problem to recognize that what benefits women benefits all of humanity. Thank you.